I don't have an opening for this. It's not a real show. This is just me being bored and can't sleep. So you get me. The girls have gone out swimming and I can't go with them today. I didn't talk about it yesterday, but I fell up the stairs and the soft part of my left knee went right into the edge of the stair and it's made walking hard. So they went swimming and I'm here by myself and I want to be sleeping, but I can't be doing that because my fucking knee hurts, guys. So I decided to I said, fuck it. There's no Lords of the Night tonight. Let's just do a quick stream and talk about some random shit. Hey, Scribbles, how you doing?
I just made a stream theme based on a now defunct card game.
I saw your tweet.
No, there's a very, very, very small segment of our audience that's going to have any idea what they're looking at when they do it. Because what I did, as I'm giving you guys an audio preview, I made cards for each of us, Lords of the Night. Using templates and the right fonts. I mean, I went all out. I mean, these things almost look like they could belong in the game. I even, knowing as I do the rules of some of the stuff in the game, attempted to make abilities for these cards that fit in not only with our personalities, but would also actually function in the game. They're probably horribly unbalanced if they were actually played, but that is what I have done with my time today so far, aside from waking up, because I am without anything to do. So when Monkey messages me and says, if you're bored, I'm like, yeah. So here I am. What are we talking about?
Well, actually, I saw some stupid stuff on the Twitter, and I was
stupid stuff on Twitter. Oh my god!
Shocking as it is. This is how I was going to open the show, Scribe, because usually when I do these, I have a little bit in mind of what I was going to talk about, you know? And this is how I was going to open the show, so I'm going to do it right now. One of the great things about a stream like this compared to Lords of the Night is we can just talk opinion. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. We don't have the time to do that on Lords of the Night because we have to read the stories, you know?
We have a format. Format restricts us from just sort of having a free-flowing conversation. Yes.
We do have there is a free-flowing conversation, but at some point we got to go, we got to stop. We have to move on.
Yeah, there's limits and boundaries.
Yeah. And so there's a little bit of freedom that comes from just one of these random, why the fuck are we doing it kind of streams? And that's kind of what we're going to get into today because the shooting is all over Twitter today. And I just saw something that broke my brain a little bit. Broke my brain. This dude, I forget who he is, but he well, fuck it. I can bring up the tweet. It's here somewhere. This one, who's the guy who did this? Ryan.
You got a super chat.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Ebony Williams. You picked until I'm going to dinner with the family to start streaming. Hi, Scribe heart. You get the heart and I get chastised in a super chat. Well,
that's you, right.
Ebony. I love you. Thank you so much. And
thank you, Ebony. Yeah. Have fun, Ebony.
Ryan Savadera, two S's or two A's after the S. So I don't know how you pronounce that.
Okay.
But he just tweeted this out. Average number of deaths per day in the U.S. And he lists a whole bunch of them. Abortions at the top with 2,400. Heart disease with 1,700. Cancer, 1,600. Opioids, 115. Drunk driving, 28. And then at the very bottom is rifles with 1. And there's actually a source for this. This comes from the FBI crime statistics.
Okay.
The number of homicides per year with a rifle is just about, well, the last one that they have data for is just at 400. So, you know, about one a day. And I just retweeted, and this person tweeted back to me, 365 perfectly preventable deaths a year is horrible. Abortion is necessary for a compassionate society. Like, what? Wait, what?
I'm confused.
Well, because abortion's there at the top with 2,400, y'all. Just throwing that out there. A day.
2,400 a day. Okay.
A day.
Okay.
Compared to one rifle murder a day.
Of course, being the argument that whether or not, depending on what stage the pregnancy was, does that count as actually the death of a person?
Sure. Well, sure. Which would have been the argument I would have taken if I were them instead of no.
Mhm.
Abortion is compassionate. And you know what? There's an argument that there's times that abortion is compassionate. I'll give them that.
It's circumstantial. I mean,
Yep.
in that sense, I mean, to call something actually compassionate is circumstantial, probably due to the condition of the fetus or the risk to the mother or something like that.
Diesel Dave, thank you so much. Been broke down for the past 3 days. Oh, sorry to hear that, dude. I know that's time and money for you, man.
Ew, what, are you camping out on the side of the road? Holy cats.
I hope they get that fixed for you soon, man. I hope it's with those big rigs, man. The wrong thing goes wrong, and they're down until they can get that part shipped to them. Damn, dude,
I know. And monkeys played Big Rig Simulator.
Well, I have actually.
Yeah, I know. That's right. That's why he's speaking from experience.
I know. I this is from talking to truckers when I worked at McDonald's. There were a lot of truckers came through there, and several of them like, yeah, I've been down for a week. They're waiting for this part. So one dude, he was waiting for tires. I'm like, that seems odd. Apparently, he had weird tires on his truck. Anyway, so yeah, the idea that it's compassionate, I can see that argument. Not 2,400 times a day. Come on, this is one of those examples where they give it. Look, hey. This mother was going to die without it. Okay, that's the one. Now, what about the other 2,399 that day? Again, thank you, Diesel Dave. Up and running now, was in a hotel room. Well, okay. Drive safe, sir. Drive safe. Glad they got you back on the road. What's that? There's the one country that's pretty much gotten away with Down syndrome by aborting any child with it. I mean, I don't know. Some people might see that as compassionate. I don't. I think that's like eugenics, but there are arguments to be made. But again, we know the vast majority of these are abortions of convenience. Let's be honest. Why can we never have a fucking honest conversation? Why can we never have an honest conversation? The vast majority of those are convenience. Oops, I got pregnant.
Yeah. I mean, it's what else is abortion for except to avoid an unwanted pregnancy? You know.
Yeah, it's.
In some way, the medical the ones that are done for medical necessity or compassion, however you define that in the circumstance. Yeah, there's going to be relatively few. These are mostly people who made a mistake, condom broke. Who knows, whatever.
Heat of the moment, they didn't even bother. You know that happens a lot.
Yep. I have had associates, let's say, who have had this happen. They made a mistake. They immediately went and took the morning after pill, but for whatever reason, it didn't work. And then they had to take the next step. So it wasn't that they weren't being completely irresponsible after the fact. It was just, biology and circumstances. And yeah.
Go ahead. Well, just the point being, we won't talk about the actual statistics. How many of those 2,400 do you think were medical necessity, or it was people who were irresponsible? That was the vast majority of those. I would bet my fucking left nut was just irresponsibility.
Okay. All right. And
why can't we, anytime it comes up, we don't talk about that. We always talk about, what about life of the mother? What about life of the mother? And that's a perfectly valid argument to have. Fine. But that's not what we're talking about in most cases.
Well, okay. Define life of the mother. If you're talking about their biological necessity. Medical necessity. Okay. But so what, I mean, what is, okay. Well, okay. Depending on what your opinion is of abortion in the first place, the problem with it being an action of, let's say, reluctant convenience. I'd like to think that I know that's probably not the case. We already know that there are people who cheer on abortion as though it's a rite of passage or stuff like that.
Oh, sure.
Okay. I am of the, let's say, perhaps dimly hopeful opinion that those are people on the outskirts of most of those who actually end up having the procedure. That the people having the procedure at worst, let's say, are reluctantly or regretfully doing so as whatever necessity they think it is of convenience.
Sure.
Okay.
I
So
don't think
what
most
is
people are running
what
around with their "I had an abortion" shirt like those assholes
right,
we see in some articles. Sure.
right. Now, what is wrong with that? I
What
mean,
do you think?
if you think all abortion is murder, no matter what the circumstances, you're going to have a problem with it any way, shape, or form. So why even categorize the motivation in that case? So
Because
if we're going to discuss degrees of necessity at that point, then you've set aside that abortion flat out is murder. So what is the problem with a abortion of, let's say, convenience?
well, here's the thing. This is what I'm talking about. Is most of the time you hear this argument, it's not about that. It's always,
Mhm.
oh, you guys, even not even in the case of a danger to the mother's life. Well, okay, how about what if we only do it in that case? No, whoa, wait. We can't look at their medical records. No.
Mhm.
And the reason I bring it up is because that's what it is. I know there's people who all abortion is murder. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think abortions of convenience could definitely be looked at that way, but it's because of the argument. We can't have the honest argument. We can't have the honest argument. If you're arguing for just safe legal abortion, then make it that. Stop every time something comes up it being no, it's about being compassionate to the mother or the fetus that would have been
Mhm.
horribly damaged. Or why do we always go to the most extreme to have that conversation if we're not talking about limiting it to the most extreme?
Because it's the strongest arguments come down to the most distinct moral differences. I mean, why did the first Star Wars movie work? Because the good guys and the bad guys were so clearly defined,
Sure.
right? You start muddying the waters there, and you get Rogue One. So the argument. Hey, I'm not kidding here. I'm not kidding here. I mean, I don't know how the hell I went from making abortion analogies using Star Wars, but it's true. If you're trying to make a moral argument against something, if you're trying to push through legislation, if you're trying to make it, and I know I'm using the word binary. I got a super chat. Sorry.
Thank you, Diesel Dave. I missed Lords of the Night for the past 3 nights. I just can't hear. Oh shit.
Yeah. It,
Is the volume fucked up or is it your ears, bud?
yeah. Oh yeah. What is the more powerful and strident argument when it comes to something that involves people's lives and livelihood? It's either it's right or it's wrong. It's legal or it's illegal. And those two camps, being that they are moral absolutes of their own kind, they're the loudest and squeakiest wheels. Now,
Sure. Yeah, you're not wrong.
there are lots of people who would find a place in the gray area. You got another super chat.
Thank you, Diesel Dave. He says, oh, we can't hear it from his phone. Oh, sorry,
Oh,
dude.
okay. Now, taking myself as an example, just for the sake of a gray area type person, and yeah, centrist, not really, but here's how I look at it. There's always the distinction of I'm not uh, I'm not I'm not pro-abortion. I'm pro-choice. That's always the distinction because it's like I don't find abortion a pleasant thing or a good option. There are plenty of steps that should have and could have been taken prior to getting to that point.
Mm-hmm.
But having been in a
Oh,
situation,
shit.
what? Oh, sorry.
Nothing. Keep going. I didn't have it up on the screen, so I couldn't see if anybody else who was invited was in. So I just had to go back to that screen. I'm sorry. Keep going.
So I was in a situation once with a partner of mine, and I was wearing a condom, but it came off during the course of activity. Okay. And we didn't realize it till after we were done. And as a consequence, with the next morning, and I was so glad to have a partner who was on the same page with me at the time. Next morning, we went down to medical clinic or whatever, got the Plan B pill,
Mm-hmm.
and she took that. Okay. Now, I am not a pharmacist, but my rudimentary understanding of it is that pill, well, it activates certain things within the female body and also completely changes their hormonal patterns. Consequently, when she would have expected to have her period about 5 or 6 days later, it didn't happen. And it continued not to happen for about 2 weeks. And every day after she was supposed to have her period, it didn't happen. We were both in our own ways, hanging by tenterhooks. Like, what's going on? What's going to happen? We don't know, right? And I was not in a really deep, serious relationship with this person at the time. Okay. It wasn't a casual thing, wasn't a friends with benefits thing, but it was just sort of we'd been just kind of been dating for a little while. But every day that I sat there wondering when I was going to get the call, one way or the other, I thought to myself, what if it's not what I want to have happen?
Mm-hmm.
But then what is the step next if she decides to keep it? Where do I come in having a say about that? Right. And so you get all these conflicting things in my head. On the one hand, it's like, well, I would hope at least she and I could come to some kind of agreement. I'm not ready to be a father. I should have the same choice in aborting the baby that she does. Wait, that doesn't make any sense because that's invasive surgery into a person's body and it is her body. All these things come into play, right? All these
Hold
things
that thought.
Yeah.
Hi, Sinatra.
How bad is my mic?
It's not horrible. You just sound like you're in a tin can.
I am currently in the car. I'm kind of on a long trip, so I figured, fuck it, I'll jump in.
Okay. Scribbles, I'm sorry, you were saying.
Well, anyway, so all these notions and thoughts are rolling around in my head, and I'm thinking, okay, if she decided to have an abortion, how would that make me feel, right? She decided to keep deciding abortion. And the entire time I'm thinking, I would hope that she would let me have a say in it. There's no legal thing that allows me to have as much of a say as the father in this process as it should, perhaps.
Right.
But even if it did and said, hey, the law says you have the ability to separate yourself financially and responsibly from this child as though you were adopting it to the mother, let's say, or adopting it out or something. Would that still make me feel bad if she decided to have an abortion rather than keep the child? And I don't have the answer, but I also know if I were in a position where would I be able to morally control her and prevent her from doing what she wanted to do? I mean, do we legislate away someone's ability to choose for themselves what to do with their life and their body? This is the area where I always come down on. I got to go with pro-choice, not pro-abortion, but pro-choice. Because as soon as I start forcing someone to have a child, either legislatively or personally or anything else, that is getting to some weird Handmaid's Tale shit. And I don't
want to force anybody to have kids. I want people to be more responsible with their bodies.
Yeah, sure. But okay, sorry.
I just have to, because I knew this shit was going to happen. Ryan Walter says, Dave Chappelle, if she has the right to kill the kid, I should have the right to abandon it. I've been preaching that for decades. Dave Chappelle gets on stage one night and gets credit for it. That's bullshit.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that notion. The father should have equitable powers over their connection to parental release and responsibility as the mother does. Obviously, the father can't bear the child and give it up for adoption, but the father should have a legal recourse.
A legal out.
Yeah, legal out if they want to.
When did pro-choice mean pro-abortion? When did that little switch up happen?
Well, that's the pro-life argument. The pro-life argument is anything other than life and no abortion is pro-abortion. That's the extreme. That's the extreme.
It's coming back to a degree. One, there was a part of that back, and you can watch this in the abortion numbers. There was a part of that in the 90s, and Bill Clinton, for whatever you think of the man, actually helped kind of change that a little bit. If you watch the abortion numbers, they just climb to where they were over 1 million. It was like 1.4 million at its high per year. And right now we're down to, I want to say it's 400,000 a year. I don't remember the exact number, but I mean, it's come way back down. But now you have these people, what we were talking about, Scribe, they're at the fringe right now, but I wish I'd had an abortion people. You know what I mean? It is actually becoming again, for some people, absolutely pro-abortion. And if you are actually pro-choice, that is different. And I have troubles with that argument. I understand it, but the people who are absolutely pro-abortion, if you get pregnant, you should have an abortion. I wish I'd had an abortion. I had 3 abortions and I'm proud of it. Like, oh my God, no. Even if you're for abortion, that should be the wrong the wrong idea.
Could you
It's not.
imagine being the kid of a mom who goes around saying, I wish I would have gotten an abortion.
Yeah, no shit.
There are women who've done that.
Yeah.
We read an article on stream one night about a woman who had said she wished she had aborted her child. I'm like, your child's going to be able to read one day, you dirty cunt. But yeah, for me, the biggest problem is we can't have an honest argument about it because everybody goes too emotional.
Well, we're having it right now.
Toasted. Well, I mean, as a society. Thank you, Toasted. Scribe Light be like, you can force people to prison.
What?
So wait, you're comparing sending someone to prison with preventing somebody from having an abortion and bearing a child they don't want?
That's
if I'm understanding, I don't know if I understood that correctly. Is that what the comparison is?
I'm guessing so. I kind of had a similar argument with people the other day over Beto O'Rourke saying he's going to take everybody. I'm sorry, not take. My bad. He's not going to take them. He's going to buy back everybody's assault rifles. And people's and my question was, well, what do you do if they don't give them back? And people, we just throw them in jail like we do with any other law. Like, you're missing the point. You're missing the point. What happens when the police go to take this guy's rifle and he doesn't want to give it up?
Yeah.
Or what happens if he's like, oh, I sold it?
Sure. Well, to me, a much bigger problem, and we've already seen this with accidental things. But you go to somebody's house. This is a man who's never committed a crime before in his life. He bought this gun legally when it was legal to buy it. And you're telling him he has to give it up, and he says no. At that point, are you willing to let the police shoot him over that? Because that's what you're talking about. That's what you're talking about in that situation. Killing this man to take that gun back, even though he had done literally nothing wrong just a month before.
Well, what if he goes, you know what? I sold it. I sold the gun a couple months ago to some rando fucking dude I met online. I put it on arms list.
You are real quiet, bud.
Can barely hear you.
What if he goes, you know what? I sold the gun. I sold it to some random dude I met on fucking arms list, and I don't have it anymore. What are you going to do then? He didn't sell it, but he just said he did.
Yeah, you got a warrant. You got a warrant for lying.
Yeah. Well, this is big talk today because Beto's out there, man. Beto's out there. He's going to heal the country by buying back rifles. And that's why the rifle number is important. The number of people. Now, the numbers that we have, I think the last number we had was 2016. So that's going to go up just a little bit when the Vegas shooting comes into play.
Mm-hmm.
When it gets counted, because that was like 80 some people that night. Something
like that, yeah.
But otherwise, I mean, it's still less than 2 people a day shot with murdered with rifles. But this is the big thing. You know how many are murdered with knives every day? About 3.5.
How come we don't know anything about the Vegas shooter? Fucking nothing.
Oh, well, we know lots about him, but it's just that he's dead and he left, so far as I know, absolutely no evidence of what his motivation was. So it's just guy went up to a building, shot a bunch of people, didn't seem to have any clear motivation as to why, and that's it. There's no story there.
And it drops off the news like in a week. I read online somewhere that he was some kind of like FBI agent selling guns, and the deal went bad, so he had to just go nuclear.
No, like, I don't remember
that makes more sense than just some rando dude with a fucking arsenal mowing into a crowd of people.
Yeah, I'm half conspiratorial on this because it doesn't make sense. They've actually said no motivation and that there was no planning. I'm like, no planning. No, what?
He used service elevator to bring bags of rifles and ammo up to his room. So there was definitely planning involved.
Yeah, he just accidentally happened to rent this room and bring all of his guns up there right at the time they're having this country concert down. Come on. I don't know. I don't know if there's actually more to it. This is one of those cases where I haven't seen a conspiracy theory I actually believe in, but I tend to go, come on, you guys, you had to have found something. Anyhow, but yeah, Beto, he's going to heal the country by buying back assault rifles because the shooter yesterday had an assault style rifle.
Well, if he wants to have a voluntary, buyback program, I don't care. But outside of that, good luck trying to do anything beyond it.
Well, that's the thing. It's not going to be voluntary.
Sorry, I missed that part. He said it's going to be a mandatory program.
Oh, yes. Beto wants a mandatory buyback of assault rifles.
He explicitly said that. Mandatory.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, he just lost the election.
Well, yeah, actually, this is getting the most coverage he's had since he called Trump a racist.
Well, sure, because they're also fucking desperate right now to get attention. Because have you heard a thing about Kamala Harris in the last 3 weeks?
Like, no, nobody cares.
Like
about
nothing. Her. No one's talked about her except for her polling numbers dropped. That's the only news I've heard about her. The only thing I've seen about the candidates lately has been Biden's gaffes and that Warren and Sanders are still in the race somehow.
The only thing I've heard about Kamala is her being blamed for Tulsi Gabbard not being in the next debate. That's it.
Oh, I saw that more as just the DNC being their generally asshole selves to their own party members.
Oh, what they did?
No, the DNC would not. No,
I know they wouldn't rig things for their own favorited candidates, would they? No.
Yeah, for those of you listening along, not sure what they're talking about. I'm gonna throw some numbers at you. Just try to pay attention. After the first debate, there was. What's that?
I was told there would be no math.
Between the first and second debates, there were 14 polls that the candidates can qualify in.
Right.
And these polls carry over throughout the debate season. So there were 14 polls in that month between the first and second debate. It has now been a month since the second debate, and they've had exactly 4. They only had 1 in each week of the last month. And there's lots of candidates like Tulsi going, excuse me, this is bullshit. Because the first week after the first debate, I think there were 4 or 5. I can't remember. But that's the important one because you get all of that news coverage right after, you have a good showing in the debate. And they had 1 goddamn poll. 1.
And Tulsi did. She had a very good showing in that second debate.
She did. She got a lot of press coverage for that.
She put the screws to Kamala harder than anyone dared to.
Yeah.
That was the retaliation from the DNC is to be like, you know what? We're done with you. Now you're too much of a troublemaker.
Yeah, it's the DNC up to their old dirty tricks. Just wait until WikiLeaks gets a hold of whatever documents exist. Because that's how we found out they were dirty last time. I mean, many of us thought it, but we found out for sure because WikiLeaks got a hold of their emails and, oh, look at that. They rigged it against Bernie. Huh. Who didn't see that coming?
Tulsi's not going down without a fight, though. She was on Tucker. She is on this like Twitter rampage of no transparency, no trust. So good for her.
Well, the thing is, even though she's missing the 3rd round of debates, doesn't mean she's going to miss the 4th necessarily. She'll still have to meet the requirements. And I don't see the DNC making it any easier for smaller candidates to get in. I think
I'm going to step away for just a second. I'll be right back.
Sure. I think they're going to make it even harder because they do want their preferred candidates in there. And the way the polling went, that is absolutely insane to me. It is insane to me that after the second round of debates, they only had 4 fucking qualifying polls. 1 a week. What in the fuck? In a presidential election? Are you kidding me? You only had 4 polls? That stinks of what's the word I'm looking here? Rigging. It just stinks of rigging it. I didn't mean to get off on this, but Beto this morning, because of the shooting yesterday, and the sheriff came out and said, yes, it was an AR style rifle. He's like, yes, see, we have to take them all back. Well, buy them all back. Sorry. We have to buy them all back. Wait, let me do my Beto. Dude. Oh, man. We got to buy back all the guns, dude. To heal America.
You don't need these weapons of war, man. They're bad, man.
You got to do the sniffing and the nose wiping. I'm not suggesting anything, Beto, but I just feel like that's part of it. I think that's part of the magic dirt. But my question to him and anybody like him, because this every fucking time this happens, like we got to get rid of those AR, those military style assault weapons. Would it have been better if he used a revolver? Would it have been better if he was out there with a 50 cal Desert Eagle?
What do you mean better?
Well, that's what I'm asking. Would the shooting have been better if it was done with a handgun rather than an assault rifle? Would that make it better?
Well, I guess the more pertinent question is, if it was done with a revolver, what would be the equivalent argument they'd be making now about preventing gun violence? Because trying to prevent revolvers, I think, goes beyond even the most well, I suppose the extremists otherwise, but you don't usually see people saying they want to outlaw revolvers.
Sorry, Joseph Wilson just said less lethal. Depends on the caliber of the gun.
No, let's say he did the exact same amount of body count with a revolver, regardless of the circumstances. Then what?
Yeah.
Did they ever release information on this dude? Like what his motivation was or anything?
I still haven't seen.
Last I knew, all they've said so far is that he was a white male in his 30s, and they haven't given a name. I don't know if that's changed. I can check real quick.
Real quick, Diesel Dave, thank you so much. Come to Illinois, see what happens. Oh, he's talking about the gun buyback. Yeah. And no, Pat, I didn't see what Alyssa tweeted. Go ahead, Snoot.
It was in Texas, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, it was down in Odessa, Texas.
So they're saying white male, Texas.
30s.
Name released. Might be a Mexican gentleman because they classify those as white males.
Somebody in chat last night on Lords of the Night mentioned that, and I don't know, but it is weird to me that they haven't released his name yet, because that's.
Well, when I hear traffic stop and somebody who immediately starts shooting at police and stuff, I have no information. But like I joked last night, my first thought was sovereign citizen. That was my first thought. This is somebody who's a sovereign citizen, and they didn't want to deal with the police. And they're getting pulled over, and they went nutso. But of course, if that was their only motivation, starting to run around and shooting innocent people is kind of beyond the pale. So I don't know.
Well,
wait, here it is. From AP News, authorities have released the name of the man who went on a.
Oh, they finally released it?
Oh, okay. What's his name?
Seth Artur, A-T-O-R.
Seth Artur, 36, identified as he was a resident of Odessa, Texas. Let's see if anybody else has got anything that I can actually read here.
Was he a legal resident of Odessa, Texas?
Well, that's what I don't see here. Let's see. The 36-year-old white man. There's no clear motive for the attack, which police have stated. Which police said started when the man identified as Seth Artur was pulled over for a minor traffic violation and opened fire. He then fired randomly from his vehicle, shooting people at as many as 13 different sites. Yeah, there's not many details about who he is or what he is yet, but give it 10 minutes and somebody will do a Facebook search and find him.
Sure, yeah, his face will start popping up. But yeah, I mean, they knew who he was pretty much immediately, and they didn't announce it. Several people in chat said the police refused to make him famous. It's going to come out anyway. That's the part that was weird to me, because usually they get us that information these days, within an hour of a shooting. Once the shooter's done, we've had that the last several. We know who he is immediately. This one was kept on the DL. I'm really interested to find out why. And you know what? If the police are honestly, we didn't want to make him famous, kiss my ass. That's a dumb excuse. No, Scribe.
I got to go. I'll talk to you guys later.
See you later, bud. My about the handgun, whether revolver, whichever. 7,000 people die each year from being murdered with a handgun. 7,000 compared to the 400 with a rifle. But he wants an automatic buyback of rifles. That makes no sense to me. That makes no this is another one of those problems where we can't have an honest conversation. Like, this is a scary looking gun. Okay. It is scary looking. I watched Commando, and if somebody came at me with one of those guns, I'd be like, oh my God, I'm gonna die.
Well, so here's my first thought about why the assault rifles and all that stuff is the go-to. Even if the statistics don't show that it's as bad as some other things. Am I, and you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, am I wrong in remembering that at one point in our past, 1980s thereabouts, there was a ban on automatic weapons or assault weapons or something?
There was the assault weapon ban. It started
right.
under Clinton, and I believe it ended under Bush.
Okay, so the reason you do that is because it's been done before and it's not unprecedented. So there's less resistance to something that's never been done before, like revolvers or knives or something. I think that's why the assault weapons is the go-to first step, because it's the leading edge of the axe. You know what I mean? To the wedge edge towards further legislation. Because again, the argument is it's not unprecedented for us to have done this, so let's bring that back. That makes it easier.
Sinatra and somebody else in chat are giving us 1984 figures. The one they always go back to is Clinton's assault rifle ban. I'm not familiar with the other. Hang on. Yeah, in 1994, following a 52-48 vote in the Senate, there was the 10-year ban on assault weapons.
Right. Yeah, it's the path of least resistance when it comes to gun legislation. That's why rifles and assault weapons come up so often. That's my analysis, my professional CNN analysis.
See, I see what you're saying, but I don't think that's what it is. I don't. I think it's that those weapons look scary, and they know that they can scare people with them.
Well, why not both? They're both scary, and it's precedented.
Because they know they're not going to get rid of handguns. They're not going to.
Well, that's probably true, but anything is something when it comes to trying to play to your base and stand on what you think is right. And I have various opinions about the whole gun control debate because I'm not a gun enthusiast, but I also don't think that they're, the Constitution's kind of a thing. So,
well, again, for me, if you're like this person with the one who came at me with the compassionate society thing, 365 people dying a year is significant. Like 7,000 with handguns, 1,500 with knives. You know how many fucking even more people, almost double the amount, are killed with blunt weapons.
How many people?
Clubs.
How many people die of the flu every year?
Oh, that's on the list, actually. Diesel Dave, thank you. I have a scary looking truck. Are you going to ban that? Well, probably eventually.
Does it have the Green Goblin's head at the front? Because then yes.
Let's see. Flu 150 every day on average.
So 350 every day.
Every day.
Times 365. I think that's a bit more than
Yeah. It's a lot more than the one a day from rifles.
Yeah, so in relative terms, then the flu is an absolute deadly epidemic, and why aren't we doing more to stop the flu?
Yeah. 228 from diabetes each year.
Oh, somebody got that reference. Did you get that reference when I said the Green Goblin's head on the front of your truck?
Isn't that isn't that a Stephen King movie?
Yeah, you're correct. You know the name, or do you remember at least who was starring in that movie?
Was it Maximum Overdrive?
Yes. Do you remember who starred in that movie?
No.
We watched a movie with him in it. We watched a movie where he was the star of it in one of our movies you should have watched.
Was it?
Yeah.
Emilio Estevez?
Yay!
And I got that before chat told me.
And what movie did we watch where he starred in, Monkey?
Something Night.
Judgment Night.
Judgment Night. That was it. Yeah.
Judgment Night.
Cuba Gooding Jr.
And that movie had guns in it, just to bring it back around.
Now, this woman, preventable deaths, 365 a year, preventable deaths. That's significant. You know how many die each day from medical errors?
From medical errors?
Medical errors.
Okay, go ahead.
685 a day
Jesus. Ban doctors.
Almost double the amount that die from guns in a year, die in a day from medical errors. The point being, I'm tired of this shit. I am so tired of the politics of fear. And yes, hashtag all sides, whatever. But the politics of fear, especially when it comes to this, and we're going to have to see it again because of this asshole yesterday now. We're going to have to hear about it again for the next fucking month until the next one happens.
Well, I mean, the politics of fear is one thing. In the case of Beto, since that's very specific, it's the politics of political desperation. The guy has no foothold against any of his competitors right now, except for the fact that his home state has now been the site of two major tragedies within a very short period of time. And I don't know if that is exactly the kind of platform I would want to build for my campaign, but Beto's sure doing it. But he's got nothing else. I mean, when you think of Beto O'Rourke, what do you think of as far as like a signature issue, setting aside the opportunistic nature of the shootings that have just happened? What was Beto O'Rourke? Like, what was his catchphrase? What do you think of when you think of Beto that actually would make some sense for his campaign prior to this? The only thing I think of is a picture on the Variety magazine where he said he was born to be president.
Oh, I remember that. No, to be honest, when it comes to Beto, the only thing I think of is the fact that I think he's a cokehead.
Oh, hey, okay. Here's a better question. I know this is completely not what we're talking about, but hey,
that's right.
So, okay, just as a pop quiz for ourselves,
sure.
Let's go over the major candidates and just sort of like word association.
Yes.
What message have they actually, or what notion have they actually gotten through to us thus far in the campaign? Okay, so I'll say a name. You tell me what comes to your mind.
Sure, let's do this.
All right. Bernie Sanders.
Socialist.
Okay. Donald Trump.
Oh, wow. God. Incumbent.
Okay. Kamala Harris.
Wow. Hillary 2.0.
Okay. Elizabeth Warren.
I'm going to give you everything.
Okay. Bill de Blasio.
Go back to New York.
Joe Biden.
Where am I?
Julian Castro.
I worked for Obama.
I'm trying to think of who else comes to mind at this point. Oh, Joe Walsh.
Oh, nobody cares about me.
And let's see, Vermin Supreme.
I need a new boot.
I'm glad you remembered who that was. I wasn't sure you'd get that one.
I know who he is. Yeah. The only other one is Andrew Yang, and that's I'll give you $1,000.
Oh, right. I completely forgot about him.
Well, he's forgettable. He's got no chance in hell. So, no, there's not many. Like even Warren, who, I mean, I feel weird saying, to her credit, has tried building a platform. Her platform is literally, I'm going to fix everything by spending a shit ton of money.
Yeah, I'm going to raise taxes and buy everybody's problems away. That seems to be the message both with Warren and especially Sanders, because I did that one video where they go through all of his promises and they're like, do you ever worry about people like thinking you can't keep all your promises? And he completely dodges giving anything close to an answer to that question. So, yeah.
He was asked, how are you going to do this without raising taxes on people? Do you remember in the first debate? And he dodged that question so much. He was one of the people that they're like, okay, we're going to give you 15 seconds to answer the question.
Right. Yeah. Even then.
And then he's finally like, yeah, we might have to raise some taxes a little bit, but it's going to benefit everybody in the end.
I don't, like I said, barring Trump doing something so beyond the pale, and at this point, like I say, the public's perception of what is beyond the pale for Trump is so high now because every little thing has been blown up by the press into being the end of the world or unprecedented or how dare he. The Russia investigation turned out to be a big nothing burger. This and the extremes to which they're willing to go. He just fired somebody for cause.
Yes.
Not because there was a personality conflict. This wasn't one of any number of other situations that you could name where he did something that seemed a little But in this instance, somebody actually betrayed his trust and talked shit about his family behind his back. And people are saying somehow this is another example of Trump turning on the people around him. Like,
yep.
Okay, all you guys are doing are setting the bricks in mortar for his campaign success. That's it. Because you guys have raised the bar so high for what is going to end up being outrageous that Trump would actually have to invade North Dakota to lose the election, or something ridiculous like that. Because the Democrats thus far, and I don't think Monkey was being facetious, because I know when he was saying his little word association thing, I try to think of something significant or interesting or exciting or even some point of passion, even if I don't agree with it on an issue or something that made sense, or at least I could see where they're coming from. Nothing occurs to me when I think of these Democratic candidates. And I've said it before, I want a strong Democratic candidate to go up against Trump. I want there to be an actual contest. And I want there to be, if we end up with Trump again, I don't want it to be because it was a stupid, weak candidate on the Democratic side. I want it to be the people actually had a distinct and clear choice that made sense for some people. But nobody so far on the Democratic side has done anything other than make promises they know they can't keep. And anybody with half a brain has been around for 10 years knows they can't keep. Or has just been completely off in La La Land, and not even Marianne Williams' La La Land.
Real quick, Havoc, sorry about that, dude. Pat accidentally hit something on his phone that was not intentional. Sorry. As to your point there, Scribe, there's very few things I can think of that any of the candidates actually stand for. Unless it's something that almost all of the things that I hear him parroting are Bernie's platform. They really are. They're Medicare for all, free college. This is all stuff that came from Bernie. This is holdover from 2016.
You know what I just realized?
What's that?
Cory Booker. I didn't even remember.
Well,
I forgot he was running.
Well, in fairness,
yeah. Okay. One of these guys, as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't matter who it is. Any of these candidates could at least set themselves up to be a contender if they picked one issue and stood on it. And that issue should be improving our place with our allies and foreign policy in general. Because like I say, the one thing that you could completely, clearly, and without any real argument from the other side say is that Trump has completely embarrassed us on the world stage over and over and over again. Okay. And I'm not talking about, starting wars and things. I'm talking about just interacting with our allies, dealing with people, portraying America as a leader amongst all the others and not looking like a buffoon. Trump has done that. So you could come and say, I want to be president because our country deserves a better position in the world with our allies and even against our enemies. Something like that. And you would at least have something to stand on that would be difficult for anybody on the Trump side to have a really good argument against, because he's done a really lousy job in that regard.
A lot of people are talking about Tulsi, including ERAS now, who says Tulsi could be that strong candidate because her character is unimpeachable. That doesn't matter. It doesn't. Trump would still find a way to destroy this woman.
No. If Biden gets the nomination, he would be very wise to take her on as VP. He won't do it, but he'd be very wise to. He'd have a West Coast native who has the kind of values that click with a lot of people on the neoliberal side, and then he'd be coming in as the veteran. It'd be the reverse of Obama, where you've got like this new vision and you've got this old stalwart standing behind him to support him. It would work. I think it would work. He's not going to do it, but it would work.
Real quick in chat, Ryan says, now I have to give Poppy her wrench back. You spelled Poppy wrong, by the way. It's not just who has done that. Poppy made me take her wrench away. She kept putting her phone in her bra and accidentally bopping people with her boobs. So she made me take her wrench away. I didn't want to do it. I actually kept it longer than she wanted me to. But yeah, there's none of them have a passionate point. And this happens in politics, whatever becomes the big story of the day. Of course, everybody's going to come up with an opinion on it. That's what happens in politics. But I can't remember a time when what they were saying was so interchangeable.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I just saw your boy Pat said she boob bopped, and I read they. None of them are trying to separate themselves. Delaney was as close as we saw, and Tulsi. For the record, guys, Tulsi is only like that when it comes to war. Otherwise, please listen to me. She is a staunch liberal, like pretty much with them on every other thing except the whole war thing. That's it.
Do you think, I'm not trying to do four-dimensional chess here, but do you think there's some either conscious or unconscious agreement that we're all going to be relatively bland, so that if we do have a unique message, we don't burn it out before we get to the primaries?
No, I think this is what I talked about before the election, is that because of the way especially our press has become, this was going to be a mad dash to the left. Because there was so much. Okay, let's back up a minute. Let's go back to 2016, shall we? Back in 2016, we were told Bernie was cheated out of the election.
Yes.
Now, that's not to say the DNC didn't cheat. They absolutely did. But he was still going to lose. If you look at the numbers, there's no way Bernie wins that thing. There was so much of this worry that, the super delegates were going to do it. They didn't even need the super delegates. She won. And she was going to win anyway, because there is no way the Democrat establishment was going to run a socialist candidate, because they know that's failure. But for the last 2 years, we've heard nothing but about how popular Bernie is, and how you have these young people today. They all want to this socialist utopia he keeps promising them of free everything. And once the race started, it's like, this is going to be a race to the left. And the only way you can out left each other is by, no, I'm going to give you Medicare for all and free college. Whoa, wait. I will give you Medicare for all, free college, and a monthly payment. It's just a natural progression of where they are. I don't think any of them came into this with any real ideas. No, I think they all came into it just wanting to be president.
It's a losing strategy besides, because unless you can counter. Nope. Sorry, I got separated. 1 second. Wait.
Sure. I don't know if this is what he was going to say, but it is a losing strategy, because when you're all the same, it doesn't matter who you vote for. It really doesn't. It doesn't matter which one of these guys you pick. You might as well vote for Bernie. He's the father of this stuff. If you believe in all this crap, you should vote for Bernie. He's the one. At least he's the one who's believed it when nobody else did. He might be old as fuck. So I won't go for him. So maybe I'll go for Warren. She's at least been second on this. She's been preaching this stuff since she was elected to Congress. But none of them have anything that separates them from the other, unless you start moving into identity politics. Oh, look, I'm a woman. Oh, I'm a black woman. Oh, I'm a black man. I'm an Indian woman. There's if you don't separate yourself, you're not giving people anything to vote for.
Yeah, and if you don't separate yourself from Trump very distinctly, you got to pick three issues or realms in which Trump does badly, and say how you do it better. So foreign policy, domestic, let's say economics, the economy in general, and then pick your pick your sort of like headline thing, gun control or women's rights or infrastructure, something like that, right? You got to cover all the base. You got to cover our place in the world, foreign policy, our place at home, everyone's general benefit, economy, and then you pick your sort of key thing, your sort of boutique issue. And they're not doing that.
Nope.
They're not doing that. They're trying to be all things to all people at all times. It's basically, I will be your problem solver. It doesn't matter what your problem is.
Yep.
I will solve it. I will solve climate change. I will solve the economy. I will solve your student loans. I will solve all the gun problems in the world. I will solve. And what solutions are offered? Taxing you, money will solve the problems. Or not taxing you, but still money will solve all the problems. And it's all just one big sort of bland soup of nothing. They have to focus. They're not focusing. I want them to focus because there's things they could actually address, or at least actually give people a choice over. But
again, if you're going to vote based on what they've said so far, you should be voting for Bernie, because almost everything they're saying came from him, or at least he's been preaching it for years. Again, Scribe, I get the idea these guys didn't get into this with any real position. They just got into it with, I want to be president. And
well, they see, that's the thing. They don't have to have a position because it's just Trump is bad. I mean, if you had a president, okay, if you had a president who wasn't Trump, okay, who let's say a George W. Bush before 9/11, okay, you'd have to be running on some specific issues, and you'd have to be trying hard to make the argument to the American people, because it was so fucking close between Gore and Bush that you got to really distinguish yourself, right? Okay, Trump is the only thing you have to run against in this instance is the guy's name. You just have to not be Trump. That they think that's going to get them through, and all this other stuff they can promise and whatever, but they're just better than Trump because they're not Trump. The problem is it's not going to work. It's a stupid idea. You have to come in with an actual vision, and they have no vision, even if it's Trump, because you have to offer something better than Trump. And if you're coming in, I mean, at least Trump had a vision. You might not have agreed with it. You might have thought it was stupidly stated or too extreme in places, but he said what he was going to do, and he's done it. What are you going to do that's different? And how passionate are you about it that you have any certitude? Because everything is so fucking vague. How you're going to do it and where you're going to do it.
Well, here's the thing. In most of the elections that I've been alive for, where there's an incumbent president, the primary starts out that way. The incumbent is bad. But from there, in the primary, the candidates running, yes, he's bad. Here's how I'm going to fix it. And then they have differing opinions on how to change it. They might not differ much, but they differ. Every goddamn one of those people raised their hand for who supports Medicare for all. All of them. Everything. They're copycats of each other. And I get what you're saying, and I think you're absolutely right. But they need to, if they want to win this and be worth the fuck, they have to actually start going after each other and show how they are different. Angry Illinoisan says, I have a question. What happened to spending time with Grand Monkey? Well, you should have been here at the beginning of the show because I explained that. But to answer that question, I hurt my knee going upstairs yesterday. So they went to go swimming again today, and I just couldn't join them. They're out swimming right now. When they get back, I'm going to be closing this down because I'm going to be spending time with her. I'd actually rather be napping while they're gone, but I tried napping, and I tried napping when they went to church, and I couldn't because my fucking knee hurts. The last one I do want to get into before they get back, Scribbles. We were asked about this yesterday about the number of people making anti-pedophilia videos lately.
Yes.
And I finally watched Lauren Chen's. And for those of you who don't know, that's Roaming Millennial. She was talking about Vice and how they're basically coming to the defense of pedophiles because, well, they are, because they're Vice. And she brought up something that I think a lot of us have noticed. depending on what social issue it is, when there's talk of change, one of the things that always comes up is the slippery slope argument. The slippery slope. If we do this, it's gonna lead to Sodom and Gomorrah. I think it's been proven that just because you yell slippery slope doesn't mean we're not actually on a slippery slope. And I don't blame go back to the gay rights argument, the gay marriage one, because this is the one where I think so many mistakes were made. Again, I think gay people should be allowed to get married. I do. I think the arguments for it were fucking wrong. The argument for gays to be allowed to conduct themselves however they want to is they are consenting adults. It's none of your fucking business. I feel like that's all that needs said, really. But instead, we got things like Born This Way. And I'm bringing up Born This Way because, well, that's part of the argument that Vice used. It's also, you remember that TEDx talk with that chick who came out and told us pedophilia is a sexual orientation.
Oh, I did a whole video on it. So yes, I'm quite aware.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. It's like, I will do nothing but say fuck through this whole thing. But that's where we are. That slippery slope, because you put us on that slippery slope with that stupid fucking argument. Well, if you can't control your attraction, does that mean nobody can control their attraction? And again, I'm not saying gay people should have to control their attraction. Legal consenting adults. What more needs said there? But because you make it just about, I was born this way and can't control myself, well, what about the pedos? And that's becoming the argument. And Lauren brings up, people have, mentioned the slippery slope. And if ever there was a slippery slope, if you're talking about, just accepting pedophiles, because that's the whole argument. We have to accept them. We have to accept. I don't have to accept jack shit. I'm a pretty accepting guy. You do what you want to do. I'll do what I want to do. As long as you're not hurting kids, I'm pretty cool with it. As long as you're not hurting other people, I don't care. This is hurting people. This is hurting kids. And they're making the argument, what about the kids who consent? Say that again slowly and think about it. Go sit in the corner and think about what you just said. What about the kids who consent? Are you fucking out of your mind? And we have more and more people making these fucking arguments. More and more every goddamn day. And this shit needs to stop, man. It needs to stop, because this isn't just a slippery slope, man. This is a highway to hell. Once you start accepting that pedophilia is normal, I think you've lost society at that point.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Like I said, the TEDx video or talk, there are some points that are made that are legitimate, in the sense that you can be a pedophile who never commits a crime, right?
Mm-hmm.
You never touch a child, you never do anything, and that part of you, if revealed, but you've never touched a kid, never done anything wrong, will still vilify you in society. Yes. And does that person deserve to be penalized or whatever for things they haven't done? Fundamentally speaking, no, of course not. And I wouldn't advocate for people who have done nothing wrong but have a mental issue to be somehow hurt or anything else. The problem is that specific mental issue is so abhorrent to 99.9% of the population. It's a very difficult thing to get by, because you're talking about someone who admittedly or diagnosedly has an attraction to the most vulnerable people among us.
Yeah.
And that's not the person you're going to leave alone with your kids. That's not the person you're going to necessarily trust in their motives, because they have a reflex towards something that's awful. And, the arguments like, oh, they're born this way and this, that, like, well, okay, well, serial killers are born that way. a lot of them found to be that they're just that's just the way they are. We don't know exactly all the mechanisms for it, but if someone has a natural predilection of hunting down their own kind and chopping off their heads, I guess we shouldn't penalize them because they're born that way. Like I said, slippery slope kind of argument. Either the whole notion just disgusts me, and of trying to normalize this or say that somehow, and like I said, there's a dividing line between someone who has the psychosexual disorder of pedophilia, and then there's someone who actually acts upon it. And can you pillory or vilify someone who admittedly has these thoughts but actively does not do anything about it and make sure to take all the steps necessary? Isn't that person still persona non grata amongst practically everybody, regardless of the fact of whether or not they did anything? Does that person deserve to be treated in that way? That is where that one tiny sliver of gray area comes in. Should someone be effectively vilified or criminalized over thoughts that they have that they are not acting on?
Criminalized? No. Vilified, I have no problem with. Here's the thing. My problem is not somebody who's attracted to children who never acts on it. Now, I don't know how many people there are like that in the world, but keep it to yourself and your therapist. One of these people that there was Lauren Chen, she went through a bunch of tweets, and one of the people that she quoted in there actually said that, I don't remember the exact quote, but what they said is that vilifying MAPs, minor attracted people, these pedophiles, makes them go out and do it because it makes them feel bad about themselves. So they go out and do it.
Right.
Like, I don't think that's how it works. It's something we don't tolerate in our society. And
real quick, Toasted Network says no one is born a pedophile, for God's sake. Well, by all evidence, no one's born gay either. Identical twins, you can have one straight twin and one gay twin. There's a lot of, at least circumstantial evidence to show that a lot of these thoughts and behaviors and everything else are instilled by circumstances over the course of your development or experiences you have growing up, that kind of thing. I don't claim to have the answer, but there's plenty of proof to say that a lot of these mental perspectives on the world are a nurture thing. And I'm not saying that somehow their parents do it, but just like environmental factors, stuff they have. There was just to bring up a different example, completely different example. There was I think it was a serial killer. What was his name? Brudeau. Anyway, he had an obsession with women's shoes, as among a whole bunch of other problems with him. And the reason was because he loved his mother and thought she looked pretty in shoes and got obsessed with shoes. And it became a thing because he associated shoes with beauty and love. And it became a fetish. And that happened when he was a very young child and just kind of developed from there. So tiny little things in your past can, have a great influence on where you go in your life mentally and otherwise. So, yeah, I'm born that way. I'm just saying that is like part of your core makeup as you're growing up. Not necessarily you come out of the womb and, now you're a serial killer or something. Did Monkey mute himself or... Am I by myself? Oh, Monkey disappeared. Okay, well, I was talking to myself. I didn't have the screen up, guys. I didn't see him leave. I'm assuming he can come back because he opened the thing up, or do I have to accept him back now because there's no waiting room? Yeah, so this might shut down in a minute because Monkey's not here. I'm so lonely. God. No, that's fine. I'm fine. Well, hi, chat. How are you? No, he doesn't need the stream link. He gave me the stream link. If he doesn't have the stream link, Well, I mean, I'll check, but I don't know if I'm going to message from him. Message, no message from Monkey. I think he just kind of dropped off the face of the earth. So if I suddenly stop talking, it's because his hosting it died. So I'll just keep chatting until he comes back or everything falls apart. Let's see. John Connor, by the way, this is the female half of this account. Are you talking to me or are you talking about yourself? Let's see. Ranting Monkey, my internet went out for maintenance. Oh, okay. Well, this stream will go down for absence relatively quickly because let's see. I should probably, and I won't know when it drops because I don't have the actual stream in front of me.
Hello.
Oh, there you are.
And I won't know
Hang
when
on.
it drops, but-
There we go. I was on my.
Okay.
Yeah, my internet dropped and a page came up down for emergency maintenance. Could be a while.
I was talking to myself all there when I was talking about bored in that way stuff. Thankfully, I was answering someone else's questions, so I wasn't talking to you directly.
Well, that sucked.
Anyway, yeah, that was interesting. For a second there, I thought, oh, it's just going to be me.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how to get back in. I'm like, oh, that's right. I sent links out, so I just went to one of those.
There you go.
Anyway, I don't remember what I was saying, but yeah, no, I'm not in any way in favor of normalizing that garbage.
No, not normalizing it. Yeah, but again, like I said, the one, and again, tiny gray area is someone who has those thoughts or is diagnosed with that, but never ever acts on them. If that is discovered, should they be treated as though they have been a criminal? You know, or ostracized from society altogether if there's no evidence they did anything wrong. And the reflexive answer is yes, because they will always pose a danger to the most vulnerable. You know, I can't deny that that's my reaction, even though I don't think on a sort of pragmatic level it should be. But
well, the other thing that I will put in there is the reason we're having these conversations is because they are trying to normalize it, and absolutely, I can have a problem with that.
You know, well, they're trying to normalize pedophilia on the adult end, and they're trying to normalize child sexuality with someone like Desmond the Amazing.
Yeah,
you know, and you got these two sides of the age spectrum, and nutso activists on either side pushing the two sides together as though they're trying to. My point there being is all of the ones I don't see any of them just casually telling their friend. They're doing it so that they can normalize. So please don't treat pedophilias like we're criminals. Well, shut the fuck up. If you're not doing anything, shut the fuck up. Go talk to your counselor about it. Yeah. That's the person that should be knowing this. And part of what the Vice article apparently was about is that if counselors feel like you might be a danger to somebody, they have a responsibility to tell the police. Well, if you're not acting, what is it you told your counselor that gave them your therapist that gave them the idea that they need to go tell the police? Because just thinking about it's not illegal. As long as you keep that shit to yourself, keep your hands to yourself, then you don't have a problem. Just keep it all to yourself. Shut the fuck up about it. Somebody made fun of pedophilias and it made me feel bad. Good. Don't touch kids. Sorry. Anyhow, now the one thing I will say is they banned, the child sex dolls. Yes.
And I don't know if that would help these people or make them more of a danger. I don't know. I see the arguments on both sides that it even normalizes it for them, so they're more likely to go touch. Okay. Or it gives them an outlet. I don't know either way. That's
well, just tell me that. Just tell me that no rapist has ever owned a sex doll.
Fair enough.
And if you can show me that, or I should say that a rapist owned a sex doll and never went out and raped again.
Sure.
That kind of thing. I mean, if you show me that, and I might believe the other side, but I think it's a coin toss, depending on
exactly. It depends on the person.
Yeah, that's it. There's no surety or security in saying that this is going to be a preventative measure or an intervention measure or something. It the person's the person. If the doll isn't doing anything, isn't reacting like they needed to, it's like, no, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. It's just there's no yeah.
The other thing to say on this
Yeah.
is Amos Yee responded to Shoe on Head, and apparently he's going to be responding to Bear as well.
I thought you said Anus Yee.
Well, you know what? Let's call him that, Anus Yee. And he went through. He has a new Twitter account. He doesn't have the name Amos Yee anywhere on there. But suddenly an account that was just created in August tweeted out his video to every YouTuber you might think would respond to his crap. A sympathetic YouTuber, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's a sock account for old Amos. And I'm like, you know what, dude, go fuck yourself. I don't care about you. I think you need to be shipped back to Singapore and just let them deal with you. You're in the country illegally. They gave him what was it, asylum? Is that what he got? I can't remember. But yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, he's here illegally and got a waiver. Like, you know what? He's a pedo. Take that waiver back and ship him right back over there, and tell them what he's been saying.
Oh, Jesus.
Share his child sex thoughts with the Singapore government.
Yeah, I remember Singapore became prominent in my mind back in the 90s when that one kid was arrested for spray painting or something, and the whole thing is going to be caned in Singapore.
And they caned his ass.
Cane him. They would cane his ass for that, and it became this big international incident. Like, oh my God, Singapore is going to physically torture this boy for something as minor as graffiti and da-da-da-da. It's like, yeah, but he was in their country, and that's their law.
He broke their law. Yeah.
Yep. I remember, I missed the 90s in a way because I called it the tabloid decade because, you had Long Island Lolita, you had Nancy Kerrigan, you had Singapore guy, you had Monica Lewinsky, even like OJ. Not that, I'm praising murder or something, but it's just that all these things were like these big blown up human scandal things, but the economy was great and we weren't at war with anybody. And Fair I know enough. That, and I say, oh, what about Bosnia? It's like, yeah, well, that was kind of a war, police action, what are you going to call it? Anyway, but yeah, I miss the 90s. I think they were the last, obviously since anything before 9/11 was pretty much like the last fun decade.
No, yeah, I just say send him back to Singapore with copies of his videos. Sinatra's saying he's a Poe, and I know there's a lot of people who believe that. No, I don't believe he is for a second. Not for a second. I think he is fully in favor of this stuff. And I think he counts on people thinking he's a Poe to help him stay relevant. Anyhow, yeah. See, this is why I like these Scribe, because we've been all over the place and had long conversations, and we just don't get to do that too many nights because, look, again, format is necessary. That's how you keep the show running. Without that,
Well, this is what we did in the beginning.
I mean, we ran out of shit to say.
Well, I don't know about that. No, I mean, like, you'd say, in case you're bored.
Oh, sure.
Or I'm bored. Let's talk. Like, okay, and we come on, just do whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And we should, maybe we should make that the deal. Like the next, whenever it ends up just being the Scribe and Money show, we just toss format and just talk for a couple hours.
Yeah, we can do that. No, what I was saying about running out of things to say is one of the reasons we got format is because when you talk 3 or 4 hours a night, eventually you will run out of it. The news slows down, whatever. You've said all you have to say for a while, and
you go brain dead without a little bit of structure.
Yeah, so we had to bring in some structure. That's what helps keep that show going.
Yeah,
but I do enjoy just rambling sometimes.
I hadn't noticed with your 2 or 3 streams a day.
Look, man, you're not my mom.
Delafruzio says, Ranting Monkey, what is a Poe? Okay, so a Poe is someone who says something that is, or makes a statement or a claim or something that is so outrageous, and yet, given the current zeitgeist, might be a actual truthful statement. So let's say somebody says something like, my 11-year-old came in last night and told me that they play brown-skinned people in video games in order to fight back against discrimination and to show that they are a good ally. Okay, now, is that person making that up? Or are they saying something that a impressionable youth of today might actually say? And are they telling the truth? When you can't necessarily divide the line between something that's just completely ridiculous and something that actually goes along with current thinking in some circles, that is a Poe. Specifically when they are not telling the truth, but you can't tell.
Right. Yeah. Specifically when they're trolling, basically.
Yes, when they're trolling, but you can't honestly say for certain that they're trolling. And
look up Titania McGrath on Twitter.
Titania McGrath on Twitter is the good one, or formerly Godfrey Elwick.
Oh, Godfrey. Yep. He was a good one.
Well, I mean, Titania McGrath might be Godfrey Elwick or whatever, but no one knows for sure. That's the theory.
Well, we know who Titania is. The guy who did that came forward. There were articles about him a little while ago. We don't know necessarily if he's Elwick. How do you say his name? The little
what's Elfwick or Elfwick?
Elfwick, yeah, the little Filipino looking guy.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the same person, but we do know that Titania is run by a dude who enjoys the fuck out of it, man. He has a blast with it.
You know what the weirdest sort of meta Poe I've seen was Dave Chappelle talking about, like, he says, I'm gonna do an impression.
Oh yes.
And people yell out Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Now that is like such a meta Poe of extremes. Like, I'm saying something that sounds very familiar to some of you out there, but it's not who I'm talking about, but you think it is because you've got it in your heads that this is how this operates. That was one of the most hilarious / brilliant / sad moments I think I've seen in quite a while.
Did you watch the whole show?
I have not yet. No, I've only seen clips and bits, and I haven't actually sat down because honestly, the last time he had a big premiere on Netflix, he had those 2 different shows. The first one was really good, and the second one was just kind of eh. So I wasn't quite sold yet on watching another one of his shows, but I might have to watch this one.
The second one wasn't as good as the first last time. It was more like a talk with Dave Chappelle than a comedy show with Dave Chappelle.
Yeah, that was the thing. Yeah, it didn't feel quite the same.
This one, there's a lot more to it. Dave cracks himself up repeatedly in it, which is great. Just to see just his reactions there. But there's so many times we've already talked about him talking about abortion, so I don't mind doing this. But he does this to the audience throughout the show. He comes out and he starts talking about abortion, right? And he's like, I support pro-choice, especially if she's dating me. Or was it only if she's dating me? I can't remember.
Oh, okay.
But he goes on, I support, or I'm pro-choice. And he goes, but if you're allowed to murder it, I should be allowed to abandon it. And so everybody in the audience who had been like, yeah, like, what?
Yeah, he pulls the bait and switch.
Just sets him up. I mean,
yeah.
I don't think that he's disingenuous in that. I don't know how he actually feels, but yeah, I mean, there were so many times he did this. He has got to be just fucking with millennials' heads horribly, because millennials love him, love Dave, and for good reason. I mean, the Chappelle show was great. A lot of his old stand-up was good. There was the one show that was just fucking excellent, but a lot of it was okay. I still, what was the movie he did? The
Half-Baked.
Half-Baked. That movie's dumb as shit, y'all. And I know I'm gonna upset people.
Love it.
I did it last time. I didn't find it funny.
Oh, okay. Well,
no, it's just a difference of opinion. That's fine.
Yeah.
I
communist.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
But that's that. I mean, it's a sign of your times, of the millennial generation. That movie was big with that generation. So Dave is this. I think Phil DeFranco, more than anyone I've seen, personified this when he said, when he's talking about the the controversy around Dave about this thing because he talks about trans people, y'all. Oh, wait a second. Oh, hang on a sec. But he says, I usually fall on the side of comedians, which is absolutely not true, Phil.
Mm-hmm.
But he has this line where he's like, but I'm a fan of Dave, so I give him a little more leeway.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, yeah, and that's the problem with you. You don't just give that to all comedians. You did it because you're a fan of his.
Right.
But the point being, like, I know when Phil watched this, it had to have fucked him up because Phil has moved so far left that there's no way he watched that one. That's so funny. He's making fun of trans people.
Not to sound like a hipster, although I will. My sister and I were fans of Dave Chappelle before he even had that movie or was famous. He did a appearance, I believe it was on David Letterman back in the 90s. Okay. And my sister and I can quote to ourselves back and forth bits he did in that thing from all the way back then. And one of the favorite ones is he talks about how he was doing, I can't do it. I can't do it justice, but he says, I'm doing bad in school. And so I want to get my grades changed. And so I got a hold of my teacher's phone number and I put a cloth over the phone and I call him up and I say, "Is this Mr. Johnson?" I'm like, "Yes." "You're a dead man." "What? Who is this?" "You're gonna die. Unless you change David Chappelle's grades." Click.
Yes.
He's like, "I'm so clever. Got it."
No, Dave. I think Dave's funny as fuck.
Oh yeah, he's hilarious.
He's not always.
No, he's not always. But yeah, I mean, he hits more than he misses.
Yeah, exactly.
And when he pulls that bait and switch on his,
Hey, you. I do want ice cream. Can you come help me end the show? You want to say hi to Scribe real fast? He's here.
I see different.
Huh?
Hello.
Here,
Hello.
hang on. Put these on. All right, say hi.
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 Okay, say, everybody, we got to go eat ice cream.
Everybody, we gotta go eat ice cream.
So we'll talk to you later.
So we'll talk to you later. Bye.
Thanks for the super. I love you. That's right. Thank you for the super chats, guys. Thank you for coming and hanging out. But it is time for me to go eat ice cream with the little one.
Yay.
So, Scribbles, thanks for hanging out. Sinatra, thanks for being here earlier. Guys, I got to go. I will see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.